Meat difference is obviously very different per ounce that you get. However, a lot of people that are just getting into homesteading don't have land. They don't have places or resources for some of the tools that Charlie just went through with you guys today. So this is a faster alternative to really getting. So it's obviously a little easier to tell on a chicken, right? You get that big comb, they're growing. These guys crow too. It's a little harder to catch sometimes, but sexing a quail is pretty easy. They're bent. They have a vent in the back too. You just push down on the back of their tail feather and you'll see that little bit of foam that comes out. This one's a boy. That foam tells us that's reproductive fluid, and that's how I know that this one's a boy. And so one of the other things is these are some pretty feathers. So for crafty people, saving these, doing things with these, I have a neighbor girl that is excited about having some of these for her resin crafts, and so I'll be saving some $10 on these a few years ago. I use them all the time, and so they work really well. Dispatching the quail, this obviously would work, right? You're going to be out, you guys are going to be helping catch quail all over the arena. So we will go through that in a little bit of a different fashion, and then we are going to skin and butterfly the quail. And so that just, a lot of times they'll fling their head like that because they'll usually, and that's just water. That's a nervous response for them. A lot of times when you pull them upside down, you get that as well. These are standard Piturnix quail, and the males can be easily identified with these brown chest feathers as well. The females typically have a little bit more of a pattern. So I am going to move over, and I'm going to hold this bird upside down, and I'm pinching the neck Charlie's gear here and use his bucket to drain. And so with quail, you can see he's kind of fluttering around a little bit. You really want to get right up behind their head. Right up behind their head there. And you want to get as close to the top of the head as possible. You don't want to cut back here in the body because you have risk of cutting some of the things like the crop. Again, anatomy for chicken versus quail, very similar. You want to cut here right at the base of their head for minimal usage of the bird and to make sure that you're leaving all those internal pieces intact. And you're going to move on. We are going to bleed the bird out, and it takes a minute. I'm going to hold it in my hand versus using a cone. I have seen people using pop bottles and things like that to make homemade cones. The sky's the limit there with whatever you want to do. I feel like having to break out and clean as little gear as possible is my preferred approach. I'll tell you too, we don't usually withdraw feed. A lot of times I'll process excess males intentionally, but usually it's somebody that's injured, and we're kind of just holding the neck where I have control of the bird and all of the moving parts. I'm then going to take my scissors and extend that neck just a bit. And one quick cut there, and we are draining the bird again. So up under it, I'm kind of pulling a little bit, and I am going to try to do as much as possible one quick cut. And this takes about maybe 20 to 30 seconds for this bird to bleed out. I am feeling a little bit of spasming. If I were to let go of his wings right now, it would be a lot of flopping, and I would be painted for the rest of the day. And so, because I have no interest in that, I'm going to hold this pretty low. Again, probably about 30 seconds max is the time that it's going to take for us to go through the bleed out process. Any questions so far?
Do you feed them like chicken or kitchen scraps?
Yes, so I do give them vegetable scraps pretty regularly. We have a big garden, and so lettuce goes to bolt, which happens a lot in Florida. We have chickens, rabbits, and they'll do forage on some of that stuff as well. Apples, apple peelings, things like that. We can feed them, and we can browse on that. Anything you can do to occupy them, they obviously small footprint. If you have a lot of birds in your cages, sometimes they'll, or I'm sorry, we're going to skin this bird instead of plucking it. First thing we want to do is address the wings and the feathers. So again, when you think about scale and size of this bird versus the chicken you saw earlier, probably not a ton of meat that you're going to get from here. So you have two joints, one here and one located here, and then the third joint where it connects to the body. And so two wing joints here. I like to take it off about right here. Again, if you're doing crafting and things like that, that leaves the majority of those white feathers intact, so you can repurpose and reuse those for other things. So I am going to put the scissors right in there, and we're going to go ahead and remove that wing.
That's gorgeous.
Set that aside for my love. We're actually going to cut here at the joint. We're going to remove the feet. Again, dehydrate dog treats. Wash these, use these in bone stock if that's what you want to do and you want to try to move toward the panning journey. I mentioned you guys about Anna earlier. And then here we've got, this is the back of the bird. So I've got my tail here. This is where the wings were and the legs. I'm going to turn this bird upside down and lay it on its back. Now I've got chest feathers here that I'm dealing with. And I just like to pull out a few of those initially, just like here in my hand. That just makes a clear path where now I can see skin down here on the breast. And got a little further down. And from there, you can use your scissors to make a little nip in here if you want, but you can see without a lot of effort, I'm just kind of tugging, and this skin is really kind of just coming apart. Actually, it's not really coming apart. It's sort of a tough skin bird. So now that I've gotten that pulled apart there,
Oh, it's not. Turn back off.
no, I'll try to turn it back on.
2 seconds. Did it shut off on you in the middle of it? Okay. Well, where's it now?
I'm sure it's used although it's a little bit like undressing it. I know that probably sounds a little morbid or weird. We're going to go out and around the wings and then switch to the other side. Same process, pulling that wing bone through that we left intact up there. This bird's got some tough skin on. They're not usually this difficult to skin out.
Last ditch resistance.
All right, now we're moving on to the leg. Same process. There we go. That one's slipping out a little bit easier. There we go.
Did you make an initial cut and then just start pulling?
I did with this guy. Sorry, that's a little loud. I did with this guy, but typically you could just kind of pull, tug, and it'll tear pretty easily. And now we are just left with what's on the back. There are some pretty tough tail feathers, and so you can see I've got most of the skin removed here, and then I will go about pulling on this. It's a little tougher to pull out.
Looks like you're skinning a squirrel.
Essentially, I mean, if you think about the size and the scale,
What kind of bird
you know,
is
you've
it?
got some, there you go, that's hard. Let's see, liver,
That's ridiculously small.
also rather small. But again,